You're listening to Learning Leader Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. On each episode, we sit down with key industry experts to discover more about what's happening in the world of learning and development, from current trends and insights to the most valuable lessons learned along the way. Join us for a fresh perspective on all things training and the best direction forward. Here's your host, Leanne Langford.
Hi, welcome to Learning Leader Spotlight. This is the podcast where we interview the learning leaders of today to help the learning leaders of tomorrow. I'm your host, Leanne Langford. I'm the president of Training Pros. Training Pros is a learning and development contract staffing company where we like to say, when you have more projects than people, let us find you the right consultant to start your project with confidence. I'm really excited about my guest today. Join me in welcoming my guest, Laura Campion, the Director of Revolution Learning Specialist at Pfizer. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Leanne. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
We're thrilled to have you here. It's going to be a great conversation. So let's just start off and let you introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a quick overview of who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I have been in learning and development for about 20 years. Originally a middle school teacher and now working full-time in corporate. And essentially, I'm part of the Revolution project for Pfizer Global Supply. So we have 35 plus manufacturing sites across the globe, and we're trying to standardize and contemporize the training so that whereas it used to be very siloed, each site does its own training. Now we're trying to standardize it at the global level and figure out what digital learning solutions we can implement across the board.
Wow. Okay. That sounds like a fun job, an interesting job to have. Um, you said you've been here about 20 years. What about learning and development first brought you to the field?
I like that L&D is very industry agnostic. It's applicable across the field. Everybody needs it. It's very focused on growth. And I just like the idea that you can use training and learning opportunities and all kinds of different formats, things like podcasts or e-learning or now AI. There's so many different medias that can be used to help people grow and develop. It makes a genuine impact, I think.
It's wonderful. I've been in L&D for quite a bit of time myself, and one of the things I love about it is how creative you can be with your solutions, and makes it a lot more fun.
Absolutely. It's like a problem solving, like investigative work. You figure out what is the gap that exists and how are we going to try to minimize that and fix it.
So again, you've been here a while in L&D. What are the biggest changes you've seen in the last few years in learning and development?
It's changed so quickly. I think one of the biggest changes I've seen is the push towards shortening of courses. So microlearnings, we have waning attention spans in the era of TikTok. Our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. So how can we make training impactful in really short doses? I also think there's a big push to embed learning into the flow of work. So instead of taking people out of their jobs to go take a course, how can we provide job aids or supplemental tools to actually make the learning happen at the time that it's needed? And then I think another big one has been the push towards coaching with AI. So using AI not just to create learning materials, but using AI as the learning itself. So personalized learning pathways, a sandbox environment where you can speak to an AI chatbot, things like that. So I'm sure you hear AI as the big change often, but it really is everywhere.
I do like to hear about the different ways people are trying to use AI to improve the learning outcomes. So I love the chatbot. We have, a sample of one of those for like a sales conversation. I've definitely experimented with creating those little chatbots to see, well, what could we do with this for training? What kinds of things have you seen with AI?
So something I'm working on right now is there's a website called devlin.ai. It's this guy, Devlin Peck, who created it. And you can use the first, I don't know, it's like 5,000 characters for free. But you can basically input the parameters and the context and the background information, and it will create this AI chatbot that talks to you. So right now I'm working on a project where you it talks you through your market action strategy. So if there's a problem with a pharmaceutical drug, that you need to initiate a market action, but there's different options for how to do that. So it will talk you through based on the context and the conditions, how to develop that strategy. So it's been really interesting figuring out how to program those parameters and what to say and how it can react to the inputs.
I love it, and I do know who Devlin Peck is, so
Yeah,
the
he's big.
thing I'm gonna be doing at the end of this recording is go check out that
Very
devlin.ag.
cool.
It does sound like a big time saver too, because I can't tell you, just for one little, like a meeting preparation chatbot I tried to create, took me an hour of effort of inputting everything and making sure I had everything right and testing it, so something that makes it a little faster would be great.
It's still very time consuming. You have to make sure you get those inputs exactly down what you want to say, account for all possible scenarios. I think that's the big change with AI is that now we have to spend more time thinking about the strategy. Like, sure, you can get it to spit out content really quickly, but I think it almost takes more time in the strategic thinking of all the different what ifs and planning for that in your prompting.
I do love that because rather than we're just cranking out content, now it's we have to really, really think about it because what we put in there is gonna really affect a lot of people.
Yeah,
You have to be
definitely.
very strategic about it. I love it. So we are definitely, heading at rapid pace into the future for sure. Where do you see us going in the next few years?
I think with AI, to continue with that, you're gonna have a big separation between those who are not willing to adapt to it out of fear, which is understandable. We all have some degree of it, and those who are quick to adopt the different tools and who are actively learning and planning how to use it and figuring out where to best implement it. So I think it's going to kind of create a separation there. And we're also going to have that like AI generated work slop, like when you can read an e-learning course and tell this is completely AI generated, it loses its authenticity, its credibility. So I think there's going to need to be a an effort made to decide which content needs to keep that human voice, not just the human oversight, but the human voice to make it impactful and worthy of doing that e-learning or whatever output you're using it for. So I think that's going to be a big factor. And then I also think with the resurgence of AI and into everything, we're going to go backwards a little bit and there's going to be more of a need for in-person training. I think people are going to realize that a lot of the e-learnings that are coming out are not that impactful. They're just click through and, there's ways to skip around it now. And so we're going to need that human interaction probably more than ever. So I think we might also counterintuitively have a resurgence of instructor-led training. We'll see. Might like, discussion forums, demos, simulations, anything in person. We'll see how that plays out.
I actually have been seeing that. I've seen people are more eager to be in person than they were maybe 3, 4 years ago. It's easier to get an in-person coffee appointment with somebody or get someone to join you online and talk versus the way it was a few years ago. And definitely seen in an increased number of people coming to the conferences to network with one another and meet. I have wondered if maybe, the fact that everything's going to AI has made us all want to be with humans again.
I think it will. I think if it hasn't yet, it will for sure.
Yes. I mean, it's definitely worked that way with regard to getting services. So for instance, you can go through a half hour of looking for a way to contact somebody at a company and you just can't get past either a chat bot or an automated line with limited numbers to press to get somewhere. And you just can't get to people anymore at companies.
It's hard. Yeah, you're like, "Speak to a human."
Human
Pressing 0,
being.
human. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, they're definitely taking the human out of the equation at a lot of companies, which I don't like. Who has been your most influential professional mentor in your career?
That would definitely be Justice Jones, cool name. He's the CEO of a company called 24/7 Education Group, and it is basically how I transitioned out of the classroom into corporate. So I did an internship, and then he also has boot camps, all kinds of different programs. But normally you don't have that much interaction with the head of the company at something like that. And he really took me under his wing. And when I had interviews, he prepped me for them. He asked me the tough questions. He helped me build my portfolio of samples. He gave me feedback constantly and really like made an extra effort to help develop me, and I truly would not have been able to make that transition without him.
So that's amazing. You normally would have to pay money for that kind of service from someone
Yeah,
to really ride you and help you and critique you, and, that's amazing. I'm sure people are gonna be looking him up.
he should. He's wonderful, and all of their programs, they have all kinds of different, like, career transition programs. Highly recommend. It's great. He set me up with clients and had me developing real projects, so that I could speak to that then in an interview, which, he really gave me my start.
I think that's fantastic, and yes, you do need that. You need to have had the experience. That's the hard part about breaking into this field is you can get the education and have the desire, but until you have real world experience, it's hard to get that first break. It's amazing. And you said it was called 24/7 training?
24/7 education group.
Education group, okay. I
Yep.
remember books were
24/7 teach and 24/7 learn. There's 2 different check
nice.
out the 247 teach side if you wanna break into instructional design.
Okay, you just gave a nice tip because
Oh, plug.
we definitely have listeners who are maybe school teachers that are wanting to break into corporate, so you better warn him. Skills are all the word, all the rage right now in corporate L&D. What do you think is the most important skill right now for workers to have?
I think from a training perspective and from an instructional design perspective, the key skill is going to be being able to diagnose the root cause of whatever the enterprise level problem is that you're addressing. Everybody just wants to throw training at it, but I think it's important to figure out, is it a knowledge gap? Is it a skills gap? Or is it a beliefs gap? Because then you're going to target that learning solution, and not everything should be training. Not every training should be e-learning. And so being able to give that pushback where necessary, and also to consider like prerequisites and preferences and take all that into account, I don't think AI will be able to do that. I think a lot of the other steps they'll be able to do. They'll be able to take a standard operating procedure and develop and organize the content. But I think figuring out what the right learning solution is going to be the key.
I agree with you. I actually just wrote a blog article on this exact thing. I was pulling back the old researchers, Robert Mager and Dana Gaines Robinson and Allison Rossett, who are all about, okay, training is the last option. Let's look at all the other options for why we're having this performance problem.
Yeah.
So I wrote a whole article about it about here's questions to ask when someone brings you this. Here's questions to ask. I think that that's you're definitely right on, spot on with what instructional designers and trainers need or facilitators need today. And honestly, that's going to be the big differentiator between the people who are replaced by AI and the people who are not. I don't think anybody has to be replaced by AI, but if you don't adopt AI and you don't start looking at more of a performance consulting thought process, you may be replaced.
Yeah, it's all about performance impact. If we are too focused on completions, it's that's not really a metric that's evaluating anything.
Agreed, I agree. Laura, what is your favorite source for industry news and information?
I use LinkedIn a lot. I find that, if you follow those good thought leaders, you can see what their opinions are on different L&D topics. And also, I found a lot of the tools that I've used, like the Devlin Peck AI, just by somebody posting about it on LinkedIn. So I feel like that's a big one. And I'm also a big fan of the Corporate Learning Network has a monthly learning conference called the CLO, Chief Learning Officer Conferences. Those are great. It really gives you that in-person chance to network with other people in L&D and to find those people on LinkedIn to add, but I've had incredible experiences just having really thought-provoking dialogue at those, both in the sessions and also just socially outside of it, but the CLO conferences, highly recommend.
That's great. So I have been to those CLO conferences at a few different locations, and what I love about them is you're having practitioners, learning leaders are presenting to learning leaders. You're hearing real stories and the real stuff, not here's a tool and let me show you why it's great and how to use it. Here's actually what we did to solve this problem at this company.
Yeah, and you're not just sitting there and listening to speech after speech. They'll do like a champagne roundtable, and then they'll do a panel discussion, and then they'll do a fireside chat, and they do all kinds of different formats to really break it up. So it's not your traditional just listening to speakers all day.
They definitely do, and they move you around and, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're walking, sometimes you're going, taking a look at stuff in the local area because it's always in a pretty city that you would wanna go to. And I love also LinkedIn because it's a great aggregator of content. You get to definitely especially if you, like, ring the bell on people who are more influencers, you get to see what people are actually talking about. That's a great option. Okay, last question is the hardest. What is the one book that everyone who wants to be a learning leader should read?
I Can I have two?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna say Map It by Kathy Moore. I'm sure you've gotten that a million times, but I like that it's the focus on what the learner, like the performance change and like what people need to do rather than what they need to know. And I think that's super valuable. And also, all my ideas about how training should not be the default solution to performance problems, that's all Kathy Moore based. And I really took that with me. And then I'm going to say for any teachers who are trying to transition out, there's a book by Lisa Spinelli called Teachers to Trainers, and it focuses on all the different career paths that you can take. So corporate training is one of them, instructional design, facilitator, all kinds of different potential options. And it's very supportive and guilt free. There's a lot of guilt with leaving the classroom. And that book was very much, do what's best for you. And, it's supportive content. It was really, I found that to be helpful in making my transition.
I love that. So I actually have that book, but I wasn't reading it from a teacher standpoint. And so I love your take on it. I was reading it because we had a glut of school teachers coming to us during the shutdown, wanting to move to corporate, and we had to figure out what can we do to help them.
Oh, that's great.
But the other book, Kathy Moore, I have heard that one once on this show, but I definitely know that book, and it's a great book. So it's a great recommendation.
I will also say a lot of companies are very hesitant to hire teachers because they think that their skills won't be transferable. And they absolutely are. There's no one that works harder or is more willing to learn than a teacher. And I just wish companies would give teachers more of a chance because the hardest working people I know are all teachers.
I definitely, when I had kids, I knew how hard the teachers worked that they would spend their day with. And my mother was a school teacher as well. I think that they definitely, I know a lot of people in learning and development who used to be school teachers. So somebody's giving them a chance somewhere. So,
Yes, you just got to get your foot in the door somewhere.
yeah. So one of the things I've done several times, I think, 5 or 6 times over my career, is taken a school teacher trying to transition in as an intern.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
that's a great way to get on the job training.
Yeah, get a portfolio, get some actual insight, and then also spend time with them so that you can teach them, how is this gonna be different? What are the things you have to watch out for? How is it different in corporate than at the school? So
Yeah, when I'm trying to build a portfolio, I got this idea from 24/7 Education Group. They said go to actual companies that exist, small businesses that would never hire an instructional designer, and ask, what training can I develop for you for free? I'll develop this, but can I then use it on my portfolio? And then it's kind of a win-win. You get that real life experience, but then you also make something that's helpful to the company.
that is an amazing suggestion, and everybody who is complaining that they can't break in should follow it. I mean, seriously, these small companies that have maybe 2 or 3 stores or something like that, they need training.
Yeah, and
They
if anyone wants to talk through the transition, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share ideas and connect you with people. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
I love it. Okay, you can count on some people reaching out. Well, you have just been an amazing guest, Laura. Thank you so much for sharing with us and this nice conversation about. I feel like we talked a lot about teachers transitioning, and I think that that's a great topic.
Well, thank you for having me, Leanne. I really appreciate it.
You bet. And as my thank you to you, we're going to plant 5 trees in your name.
How cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we plant trees as our charity here at Trading Pros, and we've planted over 5,500 trees to date. We're going to do 5 in your name. Right now, we're doing trees that are helping with preserving the land from water runoff. But we've done a lot that had to do with wildfire restoration, and we will probably do that again if there's another big wildfire. But that's just where we like to make sure that we're doing something besides just business. We want to
Oh,
get up to.
great way to give back.
Yes, yes, it is. Well, that's it for this week on Learning Leader Spotlight. We hope you join us again next week when you hear from another learning leader from another industry.
Thanks for joining us for the latest episode of Learning Leader Spotlight, interviews with corporate L&D leaders. You'll find links in the show notes to any resources mentioned on today's show. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review.